Rite of the Nine has brought us our final dungeon, that being Prophecy. Today, we're going to be going over everything you need to know to get your clear. Now, if you're new to these sets of guides, we'll also be covering the base mechanics in addition to the Rite of the Nine changes, so that you'll get the complete package on how to handle this dungeon. So let's dive in. You'll start off by loading into the Drifter ship, and to progress, you just want to jump off the platform towards the giant rock in the background, and you'll be pulled in. Now, the area you'll be transported to will teach you the basic mechanics of the entire dungeon, which is pretty simple. It's straight up Gambit, or at least in the whole moat department. Now, you probably noticed that there are a lot of areas that are either lit, that being in light, or just straight up in darkness, that being in these shadows. And by standing in either one of these areas, the edges of your screen will glow. This will either be a light white glow or a shadowy dark glow. Next, you'll notice that there are two podiums that are glowing, one light and one dark. There will be several ads around, including a handful of knights who drop 3 motes upon death. Now, the motes will either drop as light motes or dark motes, and this is dependent on the glow around the edge of your screen when killing the knight. Most notably, which area that you're actually standing in. Now, if you want dark motes, the player landing the killing blow will need to stand in the shadow and have the dark effect on the edge of the screen. And if you want light motes, same story, except here you need to be standing in a well-lit area with the light around the edge of your screen. Now, once you collect 5 motes of either kind, it will then turn into a large mote. You essentially just carry that mote to the podium that it matches and left click to explode the motes. Honestly, I don't even know what it is for controller, but just press all your buttons. Good luck! Now, if you're within range of the podium, it'll turn off, thus indicating you successfully navigated this mechanic. And when both are turned off, the door will then open. Now, keep in mind, if you ever do pick up a mote of the opposite type, that will actually override the current stacks you have. So in this case, guys, don't mix motes. And that's essentially how you unlock all these doors to get to the first encounter, which you just jump up and keep climbing this debris. Now, you could skip all of this. When you come into the area, this first area, you can actually use a sword, jump up into this hole, and literally just sword your way all the way to the top. And then when I get to the top, I just use a grapple to get over this edge, and boom, you're now at the boss, essentially just skipping that entire first area. Now, this takes us to the Phalanx Echo. Now, this encounter is very straightforward. There will be 4 podiums that you'll need to dunk motes on. A Phalanx boss will be in the center of the arena, and knights and scions will be spawning all around. Now, to start the encounter, you simply want to walk up the Tolan in the center of the arena. Now, the change that Bungie made with this version of Prophecy is that one of the podiums also has a Tolan ball on it. This is the podium that you must dunk on first, as dunking on any other podium will result in death. Now, once you turn off this podium, you can then dunk on the remaining 3 in any order. Now, anytime you dunk on one of the podiums, the rings around the arena will shift, changing which ground is lit and which ground is in shadow. Essentially, though, once all 4 podiums have been turned off, damage phase will begin. Now, to save a little bit of time, you can split your motes between 2 podiums. For instance, if you have a dark mote, you can jump up between 2 of the dark platforms, and as long as you're in the air, in the middle between both of them, when you actually hit your interact button, this will result in both of those getting hit from that single mote, and therefore turning them both off. Just a little something, guys, to save you a bit of time. Now, in terms of the actual damage phase itself, it's pretty lengthy, which means even on ultimatum mode, you can get the one phase on this boss. From options like Legend of Agrius, Lord of Wolves, I was doing Banner of War with Winterbite and Worm God. Similar to Hector from Ghost of the Deep, Warlocks can do things like Well of Radiance or Song of Flame. Hunters can rock Celestial or Tether. You do have a limited number of phases to get the kill on the boss in ultimatum mode, but with the right setups with your team, you can easily get the 2 phase, if not the 1 phase. Now, for my folks that are tackling the Explore mode version, don't worry, guys. You don't even have to worry about having to dunk on podiums in a specific order, as it's just like regular Prophecy. Now, once you've defeated the Phalanx Echo, the orb in the center of the room will lift, and when all 3 guardians stand on the sand below it, you'll then be transported to the next room. This is the Wasteland, essentially our combat traversal section, which will be filled with taken blights that you'll need to take out. Now, throughout all of this, you'll have these minotaurs, which are invisible, which on ultimatum mode will shred you. I literally have to walk around with strongholds. Now, the goal of this is to find these different areas that are filled with taken and blights. You want to clear out the enemies and then destroy the 3 taken blights. Now, once you've done this, you'll touch Tolan, who can be found close to where the blights were located. He will then move to the new area that will then spawn 3 more blights and more taken enemies. Now, you're going to complete this a total of 3 times, and that essentially finishes out this area, except on Eternity and Ultimatum modes. Upon clearing the last of the blights, you'll see this health bar that appears at the bottom of your screen. That's right, guys. You got to deal with these minotaurs. He's a thick boy, and while you're dealing with him, like there's like a lot of minotaurs that are going to be heading your way. way, so be prepared. But chunk that guy down, and that essentially finishes this area, and you can start making your way this way, which will have a chest, which yes, actually drops loot from this, as well as the direction to go for the official second encounter. Now, before you do any of this, there is a hidden chest in this area. You want to look for the piss sand. Just some good old piss sand, everybody. You see that sand? You're in the right spot. Go inside of here, and there will be a chest waiting for you to give you a little bit of extra loot. Now on to the second encounter. Now that you have cleared the Wasteland portion, you're gonna head through this door next to the chest to reach the second encounter, which is the cube encounter. Now, just like our first encounter, this will revolve around getting motes and then dunking them in the correct podiums. Now, once again, Tolan is the trigger for this encounter, who can be found at the center of this room. And you'll notice that there is one podium in front of each of the 4 walls. Now, you'll also notice that each wall has a large circle in the center of it, as well as in the center of the room. Now, when you touch Tolan to begin the encounter, he will move to one of those 4 circles located on the walls, indicating which podium you need to dunk on. Whatever podium Tolan is at, that's the one you need to interact with. Now, throughout this process, guys, several ads will be spawning in, including snipers, so be prepared for that. A machine gun is so good for this encounter. Commemoration, hammerhead, and the knights actually don't even spawn in until you deal with the hobgoblins. So you gotta have some weapons to deal with those guys above. Now, killing both of these hobgoblins will then spawn in 2 knights, which is all you need to finish each one of these rooms. Normally in this situation, you want to dedicate someone to picking up these motes so that you don't have people killing a knight, picking up motes, which will result in you having to kill another wave of knights to get the full 5, as you can't bring these motes into the next room. Don't worry, if you do spawn in the wrong motes, you can just kill the hobgoblins again, which would then spawn back in the knights. Now, once you've collected the right motes and dunked them in the right location, for instance, if Tolan is standing above dark, you need to have a dark mote to then interact with that podium. When you've done so correctly, you then want to head to the center of the room, which will be lit up, which will then take you to the next area. All 3 players will stand there. This will then lift them up into the smaller cube in the air, and you'll be transported to that next room where you repeat the process all over. Now, Rite of the 9 throws a fairly large wrench into this normal plan. Once you reach the second room, this is where things get interesting. An invincible dark blade will spawn in and chase you down. And look, I'm not talking about like slow walk dark blade. This guy moves, man. I'm talking about closes the gap quick, and on ultimatum mode will take you out in 1 hit easy. And what gets even crazier is that with each room onward, this dark blade gets even faster. So yes, have 1 person dedicated to picking up those motes, because you're gonna want to move fast in order to get out of each one of these rooms before the dark blade messes up your run. Now, upon reaching room number 6, this is where you're gonna be dealing with the 2 Centurion bosses, as well as the dark blade itself. You'll kill these bosses, and the dark blade will finally become vulnerable. He's thick, but honestly, he's really not that dangerous. We sat in the middle here, and he just kind of went back and forth, didn't really know what to do. But once he's defeated, that ends this encounter. Now, the beautiful thing about Explorer mode is that you don't even have to deal with this. Dark blade doesn't even spawn in at all. But on ultimatum mode, you definitely got to be moving quick, because we're talking 6 minutes and 20 seconds, which is all that's allowed to clear this entire encounter. So don't mess around, guys. The good thing about this is that in ultimatum mode, when you do kill the Centurions, the timer does stop. So the fast dash is to get to the Centurions, kill them as quickly as you can, even if you got to use your super on those guys, and then just sit there and use your primary or whatever to deal with the dark blade. Now, for loadouts for this encounter, again, I love machine guns. Choir of One's pretty good. Rocket sidearms are pretty good as well. Anything with hill clip is also really nice. Support auto rifles are good for keeping your teammates alive. Warlocks can run speaker sight. Hunters can use invisibility. Titans, I like to use things like Loreley with our solar subclass. Banner of War is also good as well. I would say the biggest focus is just to make sure dark blade doesn't sneak up on you. But that's essentially this encounter, guys. You'll pick up your loot, and now you'll jump up and head back out towards the Wasteland. Here, you're gonna chase down the Kell Echo over to the second door. Now, passing through it will bring you to our second traversal section, which is one of the prettiest places Bungie has ever made, the Dead Sea, often referred to as Rainbow Road. Now, Rite of the 9 has made one significant change here with its Eternity and Ultimatum difficulties, and that's this timer right here. Once you step onto the ribbons, the realm will begin to collapse, giving you 22 seconds to progress. Now, if this timer hits 0, you will wipe. Now, to combat this, you must must reach one of the mini Tolan's placed on the ribbons, which will give you 12 more seconds on your timer when you pass through them, with the text rim anchored. Now these Tolans are spread out across all 3 ribbons, and if you send one person on each path, you shouldn't have any issue with time as long as you're boosting down the track. Now just a side note, right over here guys, before you get to the end of the track, you'll have this drop down which will take you to a hidden chest. So again, some extra loot here that you can snack. Now at the end of the track though is a large circle which will pull you into a giant diamond in the sky. Once you reach this platform, the rim will no longer collapse and the timer will disappear. Now if you're running this in explore mode, don't worry guys, this mechanic doesn't even exist. Just make your way down to the end at your own pace. Now after you reach the inside of the diamond, you want to head up these stairs on the left side to find the second and final Rite of the 9 collectible, which can be found here. You'll continue down the hallway past all the taken thrall, and you'll now arrive at the final encounter, the Kell Echo. Now no lie, I was actually surprised with the difficulty of this encounter. Everything, especially on ultimatum mode, poops on you, with some additional changes that have added several moving parts to the damage phase. Now to start off, you just want to touch Tolan in the center to get things rolling. You'll then take note of the 3 podiums in the corners of the room. Now, the goal here is to dunk in all 3 podiums. Now each of these podiums will have a copy of the Kell Echo, who will blast the piss out of you. Be careful guys, like even if you're jumping up on top of the podium, don't stay up there long. On ultimatum mode, he will wreck you fast. Now throughout the room, you'll see knights that spawn in continuously. There'll also be groups of scions that spawn in, and when you kill the knights, you'll notice motes that are dropping that you'll need to pick up to then gather 5 and dunk on the podium associated with that mote. Now when you do so, the copy of the Kell Echo will vanish, and in its place, an ogre will spawn. Now actually the way we handled this was that 2 people were on ad clear, and I would say for this particular area, it's nice to actually have 2 guys that know how to ad clear, because as soon as that ogre pops up, those 2 guardians need to shred that ogre as quickly as they can. Now upon doing this to all 3 podiums, the sand in the center of the room will line up. You're gonna have all 3 players stand in the center once more, and you'll be pulled into the next area where you're gonna be doing damage. Now here you'll notice a number of platforms, with the Kell Echo standing on the closest platform, just down the stairs here. Now you also notice that he has this very faint ring surrounding him from a distance. You want to be inside of this ring, guys, as if you aren't, you'll notice that you start to accumulate stacks called dark entropy. And if those stacks hit 10, they will kill you instantly. Now, being close to the boss not only stops these stacks from building, but it also drains the stacks that you have. So if you do end up getting a bunch of stacks, just try to get back to the boss as quickly as you can. Now, after a short period of time, the boss will teleport to a platform further back, which is going to force you to move up with them. Now, you probably also noticed that knights and hobgoblins start to spawn in. The knights will once again drop motes, but this time only light motes. You'll also see that there are 2 podiums that are floating just off to the left and right of the platforms, towards the middle and back of this room. Now, when you collect 5 motes and dunk them into one of these podiums, this will actually stop the boss from teleporting for a short time, keeping him on his platform. Now, you can only use these podiums per phase, so keep that in mind. Now, you'll continue doing damage as the boss moves through the room, dunking in the podiums as you go. The thing to really look out for is this very large darkness bolt that the boss will launch at you. If it hits you, it will teleport you back towards the entrance of the room, which means you're gonna have to make your way back and hopefully get back in time before you accumulate too many stacks of dark entropy. Now, you can either dodge his attack by jumping out of the way. For instance, I'm just kind of chilling by my barricade on one side so that he intentionally does his attack and I can move to the other side of the barricade and still maintain my bolt charge stacks. I would be somewhat wary about standing behind cover, as there are times where the attack will still hit you even when standing behind blocks. And perhaps it's just certain blocks, as yes, some people do just sit there behind cover, but I literally just move out of the way. Now, once you reach the end of the room, you'll have a damage window where you could pretty much just blow your entire load into the boss. So whatever you got left, guys, unleash all you can. And if you don't get the one base, the boss will then teleport away and go immune yet again. You'll then go up the stairs just behind where he was and gather on the sand again. This will then teleport you to a similar room from the beginning of the encounter. And here you must run the mechanics once more. Now, in ultimatum mode, you'll only have 3 phases to kill the Kell Echo before you wipe. In Explorer mode, though, you don't have this issue. Not only will you not have to worry about the podiums during the damage phase, but there's also way less ads in the damage room itself. Now, let me just talk loadouts for this, because I was actually sitting there perplexed on what to use, and I kind of went back to one of my OG loadouts with hazardous propulsion, anarchy, and just my riposte auto rifle, which is void, and really just leaned into bolt charge accumulation. This is the same loadout I utilized a lot in the second encounter of Sunder Doctrine. Some things that really do help in this encounter, though, are support auto rifles just for the ability to save your teammates. Considering the Kell Echoes that are constantly shooting at you, the Knights that are spewing fire everywhere, you have attrition on throughout this entire dungeon, and it hurts, man. So having some means of getting your health back is very beneficial. Now, in terms of DPS, again, I leaned into my bolt charge build with hazardous propulsion, and I like to use like a rapid fire void weapon with my different boosts to get my class ability back as quickly as I can. Queen Breakers, though, is also good here, but it does suffer considering how much the boss moves. I think a lot of people are finding success, though, with Anarchy and Sniper rifles, with most people able to get the two-phase off with those combinations. So for my fellow Titans out there, Bolt Charge Thunder Crash, definitely the way to go. For my Hunters, Celestial Golden Gun, and for my Warlocks, you really only have two options. A Song of Flame build with speakers. You could do well at Radiance, though, but keep in mind this boss moves a lot. Even if you immediately drop your well, there's a good chance you're in a situation where the boss is too far away and you're accumulating too many stacks of Dark Entropy. Now, you could move up and drop your well on one of the further platforms, allowing you to stay in that circle. I just found that using Song of Flame was just easier, as it allowed you to keep those buffs, hand out damage resists, and carry it with you as you move up from platform to platform. So there you go, guys. That is the Prophecy Dungeon for Rite of the Night. Ultimatum mode was surprisingly difficult. Prophecy is considered one of the easiest, if not the easiest dungeon in the game, but I was pleasantly surprised to see how well Ultimatum mode gave us a fight. Again, pick up the quest there from the Emissary, attune to the weapon of your choice, and if you're interested in knowing which Godrolls to be looking out for, we have an overview video going over that as well. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.